Hi, Rabbi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, good evening. So, we have a lot of the ladies, all the men are leaving.
Okay, bye.
Got it. Parshas Noso.
Okay, go.
I hope your Shavuos was nice. Parshas Noso, a little bit to talk about. In Parshas Noso, we have Birkat Kohanim. Now, there's a custom, Friday night, fathers give a bracha to their children. Do you have that custom?
Yes.
Do the women give brachot at all? You know, in some families, the children go to the father, and they also go to the mother, and they get a bracha. In some families. Often the bracha includes Birkat Kohanim. So it's interesting, they asked once the Vilna Gaon if you're allowed to do Birkat Kohanim if you're not a Kohen, you know, Friday night in your house. And he said yes, but he said one thing. When the Kohen gives a bracha, he uses both his hands. He says when you give your child a bracha, you should only use one hand. That's what the Vilna Gaon said. It was an interesting take on it. When the Kohanim give a bracha, now you have this every Shabbat, we only have it on the Chagim. What do you do? Where do you look when the Kohanim give a bracha? So the men put a talit over their head so they don't look. The cover.
Oh, yeah.
And the Kohanim put a talit over their heads not to look also. The question is why? So the Gemara seems to imply, the Meforshim, that the Shekhinah is on their fingers. So you're not supposed to look because you're looking at the Shekhinah, Hashem's presence. The Mishnah Berurah says different. Maybe in the days of the Beit HaMikdash, the Shekhinah was there, but not today. Today we don't have the Shekhinah there. So one of the reasons, good evening, one of the reasons is not to be distracted. When the Kohen gives you the bracha, you're supposed to be thinking what the Kohen is saying. And the Kohen is supposed to be thinking about you. So we cover our eyes and we don't look. So we don't look at, oh, look what kind of shoes he's wearing. Look at the tie, it doesn't match, the suit. We don't get distracted. I'm talking about Birkat Kohanim. See, Ashkenazim, we only do Birkat Kohanim on the Chagim.
Don't it?
We do it. On Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Pesach,
But
Shavuot.
every Shabbat?
No, we don't.
Why?
Because in Chutz La'aretz, we are not besimcha. We're not in joy. And you're only supposed to do Birkat Kohanim besimcha. The Vilna Gaon was of the opinion that you do Birkat Kohanim every day. So in Israel, where they follow the customs of the Vilna Gaon, they do Birkat Kohanim every day. Sfardim do Birkat Kohanim every day.
No,
You don't
Monday?
do it during the week?
During the week, no. Monday and Thursdays, they don't do it?
They don't do it? Okay, some Sfardim do, I guess you don't, but you do it every Shabbat.
Yes, every Shabbat.
Okay.
Every Shabbat.
Again, you don't do the singing in between, you just do the straightforward Birkat Kohanim. Ruach Hashem Yishmorecha, Amen.
Yes,
You do the
yes.
straight. So, different minhagim. But one of the things everybody agrees on, that you don't look at the hands of the Kohanim, and the reason is, the reason is not that the Shekhinah is there, but it's not to be distracted. Now, what language is Birkat Kohanim given? In Hebrew. Okay? What if the Kohen wants to give you the bracha in English? Is he allowed to do it? So the answer is no, we have to use Hebrew. What's interesting is that Birkat Kohanim is said in singular form. Yevarechacha, Hashem should bless you. Yevarecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, he should watch over you. Even though the Kohen is standing in front of 30, 40, 50 people, maybe you should say Yevarachem, Hashem should bless all of you. Why does he say it in singular, Lashon Yachid? It's very interesting. So the Meforshim give a very interesting answer. You're standing before the Kohanim are giving you a bracha, which is really coming from Hashem. Every person in the crowd has a different need. This person needs a shidduch, this person needs parnasah, this person needs a refuah shleima. Everybody has something different. So the Kohen doesn't say, I bless all of you. He says, Yevarechacha, I'm sending Hashem's bracha to you. What you need, and to you. What you need, and to you what you need. So the bracha is said in Lashon Yachid, singular, that every person should think what it is that they need when the Kohen says the bracha, that Hashem should send that bracha to you. So he doesn't just put you all together in Lashon Rabim. It's singular. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. In Parshas Naso, we have all the laws of a Nazir. What is a Nazir? A person feels that his Yetzer Hara is too great, and he says, I'm going to take upon myself certain restrictions. I'm not going to drink wine, even grape juice. I'm not going to go to make myself tameh. Certain restrictions. He's not going to cut his hair. He isolates himself a little bit. The average Nazir, if a person doesn't say how many days he's a Nazir for, what's the minimum?
30 days.
30 days. Why 30 days? Very interesting answer. The answer that's given is because in order to break a habit, it usually takes 30 days. If a child is born premature, he goes out of that status after 30 days. If you're not sure, if you said Mashiv Haruach and Morid HaGeshem, or V'sein Baracha, or V'sein Talamata, you're not sure. So if it's within the 30 days, we assume you didn't say it. After 30 days, you're already used to the routine, we assume you did say it. That means the rule is to change old habits takes about 30 days. After 30 days, you are supposed to be a different person. Now, the Torah does not tell you how long you should be a Nazir for. The Meshech Chochmah says, you know why? Because everybody is different. 30 days may be enough for you. It may not be enough for you. You may need 60 days. You may need 90 days. Everybody has to figure out their own demons and what they need in order to make a change. Everybody works on trying to make a change, and hopefully when the process is over, you're a different person. Now, it doesn't always work that way. There were many very famous people who were Nazirs from birth, and they made mistakes. They weren't the holy person we would have expected them to be. Avshalom was a Nazir from birth, and yet he rebelled against his father, tried to kill his father. Not the type of thing you would look up to. That means the Nazir is supposed to make you holier. You wouldn't look at a person who tries to kill his father as being a holier person. Now, he was angry about a lot of things, and he had complaints, but his way of dealing with it was not the way you would expect from a person who's a holy person, from a kadosh. Okay? So it's a big debate. According to some opinions, a Nazir is a holy person. The Rambam, he's of the opinion that a Nazir is not holy. After he's a Nazir, he's holy. You know why? He says if a person needs to go to such extremes in order to straighten out their life, they can't be that holy. The Rambam was of the big opinion that what's the best way to go through life? He called it the golden road, the Shvil HaZahav. You know what the golden road is? Right in the middle. If someone is extreme to the left or to the right, he wasn't thrilled with that. He understood that if you have a piece of metal bent this way, sometimes you have to bend it all the way this way just to get it in the middle. And maybe that's what the Nazir is doing. He's stretching it this way to get into the middle. After he gets settled in the middle, he can be a holy person. But if you need to go to the extreme in order to be a good person, that in itself is a problem. That's the Rambam's opinion. Okay? Who can a Nazir make himself tameh to? Whose funeral? Can he attend his father's funeral or his mother's funeral?
Yes.
No.
No.
The Nazir has the same restriction as the Kohen Gadol, which is interesting. A regular Kohen can attend the funeral of his parents, of his brother and his sister, but not the Nazir. Why not? So there's a Sefer Iglei Tal. He says something interesting. He says, the regular Kohen, why is he a Kohen? Because his father was a Kohen. So his Kiddusha came from his father. So if his father passes away, respectfully, he has to go to the funeral. He is the product of his father. the Nazir, his father doesn't have to be a Nazir. The Nazir makes himself the Nazir. Just like the Kohen Gadol is not the Kohen Gadol because his father was the Kohen Gadol. Doesn't work that way. You don't hand that down. He was the most worthy. So the Nazir, he is self-proclaimed. He takes on the Kedusha himself. It doesn't come from his father. It doesn't come from his grandfather. Therefore, he cannot become Tamei to them. He's not allowed. And if he becomes Tamei, he has to start all over. He has to bring Korbanot, good evening, and he has to start all over the counting the 30 days. Okay? So, in general, the Nazir cannot become Tamei at all. Why? Because his focus is on holiness. Going to cemeteries is not necessarily the holy thing. It's a very interesting Gemara. The Gemara says that there was a particular person from Tveria that sent his son to a yeshiva. He gets a message that his son does chesed at night. He goes to the Chevra Kadisha and he does taharos for people. Father said to him, he says, it's very, very nice, but if I wanted you to do taharos, I would have kept you home. There are plenty of dead people in Tveria that die. I sent you to yeshiva to learn, not to be out of the yeshiva. The Gemara says, there's not enough graves in Tveria. That means the Nazir is supposed to be focused on Kedusha. Kedusha does not mean hanging around dead bodies. So that's why he's restricted. The Baal HaTurim says something very interesting. He says in the olden days, people used to go to dead bodies, for sorcery, for witchcraft. It made them look powerful. He says the Nazir wants to be a holy person. It's very dangerous for a holy person to be around dead bodies. It takes away the Kedusha. So the Baal HaTurim says, you shouldn't do it. The Ramah, he brings down that Kodesh Yiyah, the Nazir one day will be a holy person. Not today. He's what we call him, there's always a sign, sometimes in Manhattan, when they're doing construction, work in progress, right? A Nazir is work in progress. He has a goal. He has to get to that goal. And he's using the Nazirut to help him, okay? Today, if a person wants to become a holier person, what should they do? Let's say one of your children, or someone you know, comes to you and says, I don't feel I'm holy enough. I want to become a holier person. What would you tell them to do? What would you advise them?
Sit and learn.
Well, you know what? That's part of it. In Pirkei Avos, it has some very interesting guidelines. One thing is Aseh L'charav. Have for you someone, a guide, a teacher. A person today called me up, their daughter got engaged. Very nice, Mazel Tov, it was wonderful. Tell me about the boy. So I asked the question, does the boy have a Rebbe? So the father says, I don't know. Why is that important? I said, because in life, there are going to be a lot of issues. And if he has a Rebbe who's older and wiser, he has someone he'll talk to. And more importantly, hopefully someone he'll listen to. Because if he doesn't have someone to guide him and to listen to, he's lost. Then he's going to get into machloket. He doesn't have a Rebbe. So Pirkei Avos says, Aseh L'charav. You want to become a holier person, you need a mentor. You need someone to learn from. That's the first step. The next step is Knei L'cha Chaver, have good friends. When you hang out with good friends, you'll do good things. When you hang out with friends who are not great, you're looking for trouble. Because you want to be part of the group. As parents, when my children were growing up, and my children wanted to go over to someone's house, we used to check out the house. We wanted to make sure that the children were good children. We didn't have control who was in their class. That means they go to a class, there's 30 kids in the class, you have no control over who's in the class. But we did have control whose houses they went to, where they went over for a Shabbat, who came over to our house. We had control of that. We wanted to make sure they had good friends. So they needed a mentor. Sometimes in schools, they have teachers that take care of, have a relationship with the students that are very positive. Aseh L'charav, Knei L'cha Chaver, have good friends. Learning Torah is just a great idea. Right? It's great. When you talk about learning Torah, there's many parts to it. Halacha, how to conduct yourself. Musar, how to be ethical.
What about Shabbaton?
Shabbatonim are great from this perspective. When a child is away from home on a Shabbat, and you have good teachers running the Shabbaton, they bond. There's a bonding that occurs. The child and the teacher become close friends. That bonding can make a big difference.
Not like in the school, they have the 3 days for the Shabbaton.
Right.
It's better to send or not?
So the Ashkenazim always send. The complaints I hear from the schools is that Sephardim don't send. They like to keep their girls, especially at home. They don't like to send them away for Shabbat, or their sons. And the schools resent that. The schools have a big problem with that. Because the Shabbaton is a fun opportunity where everybody gets to know each other in a more relaxed situation versus the classroom, which is very stiff and very regulated. So sometimes the difference between a successful and a not a successful student can be the Shabbaton.
It's mean not to send the Shabbaton, yeah?
No, it means to send to the Shabbaton.
No,
The
we need
Shabbaton
to
is a
send.
good experience.
Oh, okay.
It's a bonding experience, it's a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I led some tours in Europe, for example, we went to 40, 50 people, none of us knew each other. We were together for 10 days or, going through Europe. At the end of the 10 days, we were all the best friends. It just, we had each other. And that made all the difference in the world. Now, of course, everything is good and bad. If at the Shabbatonim you have kids that are not good homes, your child is going to hang out with the wrong crowd. That's a problem. It becomes more serious during their teenage years because children are a little bit rebellious and they want to do what they think is right, and they don't always think you know what's right. They know better. We were all those same teenagers. We all knew better than our parents. There's no question about that. And we all said growing up, we're going to be different than our parents. And what our parents would not allow, we're going to let our children do. And then when we became parents, we were exactly like our parents. We didn't make one change. So it's just what it is, it's just the way life is. Now, this is interesting. The Kohanim, when they go up to do Birkat Kohanim, they take off their shoes. Mm-hmm. Who made that decision? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was afraid that when they were walking up, the shoelace might break. And the Kohen would bend down to fix the shoelace, and he would touch the shoe, he'd have to rewash his hands, and people would start looking and getting distracted. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, Kohanim, take off your shoes when you do Birkat Kohanim. The Gemara says there were 9 things Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said. This was one of them. What are the other 8? So let me tell you what some of the other 8 things are. We blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. When Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, do we blow shofar? No. In the Beit HaMikdash, they did. In the Beit HaMikdash, on Shabbos, they blew shofar. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, he came up with a compromise, which we don't follow today. He said, any city that had a Bet Din, they blew shofar in the Bet Din. So most cities had a small Bet Din at the gates of the city. Mm-hmm. They would blow shofar in the Beit Din. They would have a minyan in the Bet Din, and they would blow shofar Rosh Hashanah, even if it fell out on Shabbat. Now, in the olden days, all the cities had more or less walls around. They all had eruvim. When that was lost, nobody blows shofar anymore. So we don't blow shofar on Shabbat at all. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said you could blow shofar on Shabbat in the Bet Din. Next, we take the lulav and an esrog. How many days do we take lulav and an esrog? 7 days. 7 days. In the olden days, they only took lulav and esrog on day 1. If you lived in a small city, you only did the bracha on the lulav and esrog the first day of Sukkot. That's it. In the Beit HaMikdash, they took all 7 days. When the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says everybody takes the lulav and esrog 7 days. Of course, it's not really 7 days, Because there's going to be one day in those 7 when you don't take the lulav and esrog. Which day is that? Shabbat. Okay? So, but he says every day of Sukkot we take the lulav and esrog, which we do today. But that was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's rule. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says that the omer that you brought on the first day of Pesach doesn't allow you to eat from the new grains till the 2nd day of Pesach. He added an extra day. He didn't want people being Mechalel Yom Tov, so he said you have to wait 1 day. The witnesses to bless the new moon, they could travel even on Shabbat, but he no longer accepted them after Mincha. In the olden days, they could come anytime, he didn't allow it. He also said they could only travel on Shabbat for 2 months, Nisan and Tishrei. All other months, if they saw the new moon on Shabbat, they were not allowed to be Mechalel Shabbat. They had to wait till Sunday.
Nisan?
So he made it Nisan because of Pesach, and Tishrei because of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Okay? He says that, part of the conversion process was that they had to bring a korban. In his days, when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, they couldn't bring a korban. So you know what they used to do? They used to leave money in the Beit Din, that if the Beit HaMikdash gets rebuilt, use this money to bring a korban for me. That's how they used to do. Today we don't do that. We don't have korbanot today. If the Rosh Beit Din was out of town, the witnesses used to go to wherever he was. Today they just go to the Beit Din. He says that if you have netar avoy, which you have to eat in Yerushalayim, even if you're only a day away, you can redeem it for money. You don't have to do it. The other thing was, in the olden days, when Rosh Hashanah, when Yom Kippur came, they tied a red string outside the Beit HaMikdash. And by the time Yom Kippur was over, that red string turned white, which meant all your sins were forgiven. What happened was, it stopped turning white. It stopped turning white. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, from now on, we're going to put the red string on the inside, so no one can see it. Only the Kohen Gadol knew if it turned white or not. And there was a period of time, they put the red string on the horn of the goat that they sent out. So when they threw the goat over the mountain and it broke up in 1,000 pieces, no one ever saw the red string after that. So this idea of the red string, stop. The other thing is, if a man was very suspicious of his wife, right? We had the whole parsha of Sota. What is Sota? That if the man says, if the husband says, I don't want you talking to that man, and then you go ahead and you talk to that man, he could bring you to the Beit HaMikdash, and you have to drink a certain potion. When did this stop? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai stopped it. He says it was getting so bad, every day another man was schlepping his wife to the Beit HaMikdash. I don't trust her, I don't trust her, I don't trust her. He says when people's marriages lost faith and trust, he says it was just ridiculous. He just stopped it. Every day there would be 20 women in the Beit HaMikdash, husbands screaming, I wanted a drink, I wanted a drink, for no reason. So therefore he stopped it, put it to stop. If the woman was guilty, and she did have an affair, and she drank from this drink, she would die. What happened to the man she had the affair with? Well, what happened to him? He died at the same time.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That means not only is she on trial, but she is brought to the Beit HaMikdash. If she drinks and is found to be guilty, so she would die. The man could be 100 miles away. He would die also.
Means her husband?
Not her husband,
Oh, this man.
the man.
Yes.
Now, interesting else. Let's say she was unfaithful. She got involved with another man. But her husband was no prize. He was involved with another woman. Would the water kill her? No. If he was just as guilty as she was, then, and now he drags her in, the water would not affect her. So he had to be good. If he was not a good man, and he drove her out, so-called, and now he wants to punish her, doesn't work.
Smart woman.
right? Smart water. I'll tell you how smart the water is. They bring down a story that there were two women that were twins. And the husband suspected his wife. And the wife was guilty. So she said to her twin sister, you'll dress up like me, and you'll go, and you'll drink the water. And nothing will happen. So she did. She went, dressed up. There was identical twins. Husband couldn't tell them apart. And she drank the water, and nothing happened. So she said to her, see, I told you I was innocent. Then she goes to her sister, and she says, it worked. She says, that's great. And she gives her a big hug and kisses her. There was a little drop of water on her lip. The drop of water touched this woman, she died. They bring down that story in the Midrash. So, smart water, as you say, smart water. Now, listen to this. Listen to this. This you may not like so much. Let's say the woman had an affair. She's guilty. Husband brings her to the Beit HaMikdash. Prepares the drink. If she says, I don't want to drink, is she allowed to say that? Yes. Then the husband can divorce her if he wants.
She's guilty.
Well, she doesn't admit guilt. She just says, I don't want to drink. There's an old story. The Kohen prepares the drink and gives it to the woman, and the woman says, I don't want to drink it. I don't want to drink it. I don't know if it's kosher. I don't want to put it in my mouth. I'll take it intravenously. If you give it to me in my vein, I'll take it intravenously. Kohen says, we can't do that. He says, why not? You can't take God's name in vain. But that's not really true. Just thought I'd point that out to you. You can't take God's name in vain. You can't do it. But this is interesting. If the woman is given the choice, the Kohen says, do you want to drink or not? She has the right to say, I don't want. You know who doesn't get a choice? The man she had the affair with. That means she gets a choice. But if she drinks and she's guilty, this guy, wherever he is going to die. What about if he wants to come forward and say, I confess, I had this affair? Do we listen to him? No. He doesn't get a pass. He took advantage of her. The halacha seems to imply the man takes advantage of the woman. And therefore the woman could be the real victim here. And if she wants to not drink, that's her choice. The man doesn't get a choice. Because he shouldn't have gotten involved with a married woman. He should have been smarter than that. So she gets a choice because sometimes she's so unhappy that she gravitates to other people. And we don't blame her for being unhappy. Who do we blame? If the wife is unhappy, who are we blaming? The husband. It's interesting. From you go back thousands of years, unfortunately the husbands are not here to listen to this, but but they can listen to the tape.
You can't blame him.
No, you can't make this stuff up. But if the wife is unhappy in the house, often the blame that is placed on is the husband. Either the husband's been too strict, or too controlling, or too demanding, or he doesn't.
Too nice.
You think the husband could be too nice?
Yes.
It's not bad.
Okay, you must have been speaking to my wife, no doubt. That's fine. Okay, so clearly that's what it is. Now, husband is too nice. I could only be, you were speaking to my wife, that's what it must be. When the Kohen blesses the people, how does he stand?
Face to Aron HaKodesh.
Well, when he goes up, he's facing the Aron HaKodesh. He makes the bracha. What does he do during making the bracha? Do you know?
He faces the people.
He turns around and faces the people.
We never saw.
You don't look.
Yeah, we don't look.
You know what they say, the first time you look, you can get blind in one eye. The second time you get blind in the other eye. What happens the third time? You get blind in both eyes. But that doesn't happen. The Kohen, interesting. The Kohen goes up, he's facing the Aron Kodesh and the Torahs. And then in Birkat Kohanim, he turns around and faces the people. They learn from here that the Kavod HaTzibur, the honor of the congregation, is greater than Hashem. Because he turns his back to the Aron Kodesh and he faces the people. The Rav Sternbuch learns from here, and he brings this down as well. He says that, actually it's the Torah Tamima, he says this is why when the rabbi speaks on Shabbat, very often his back is facing the Aron Kodesh. That means you could say, Rabbi, how can you do that? Maybe stand to the side. But many Rabbanim speak on the bima or in front, and their back is to the Aron Kodesh, and then you're not supposed to have your back to the Aron Kodesh. But the Torah Tamima says, we learn from Birkat Kohanim that the respect of the congregation, the Kavod HaTzibur,
Shalom, peace.
is so great.
Great for Hashem.
Right. So even though your back is to Hashem, it's not out of disrespect.
Yes.
It's out of respect to the congregation, which in itself carries a tremendous amount of respect. Okay? There's a Gemara. The Gemara is in Soto. And this is part of one of the Haftarot. Let's understand what happened. When David became the king, the Aron Kodesh was in Shiloh, and then in different little cities. Novia, Kohanim was in different cities. There was a battle against the Plishtim, and the Jewish army lost. So you know what they decided to do? They says, the next time we go out to fight, we're going to take the Aron Kodesh with us. Because if we have the Aron Kodesh, Hashem will fight for us. They believed the Aron Kodesh had this power, which it did, to defeat their enemies. They lost again. And what happened to the Aron Kodesh? It was taken by the Plishtim. The Plishtim took the Aron Kodesh. The Navi says that every city that the Aron Kodesh was in, people in the city started to get sick. They started dying. So the 5 main cities of the Plishtim, no one wanted the Aron Kodesh. They took the Aron Kodesh, you take it, and in the end it was in the field. So the Plishtim says, you know what? Let's get a new wagon. We're going to put the Aron Kodesh on the wagon. We're going to tie oxen, new ox, in front of the wagon. If Hashem wants the Aron Kodesh to stay by us, the oxen will stay, the Aron Kodesh will stay. If Hashem wants it to go back to the Jewish people, the oxen will carry it. But we're finished with this Aron Kodesh. Everywhere it goes, plague, death, destruction. And this wagon carried the Aron Kodesh back to the Jewish people. When the Aron Kodesh came back, the Jews were so excited, and many of them started to stare, and they started to die. So it ended up going to someone's home for 3 months. Over there, whatever it was, for 3 months. David HaMelech decided he's going to bring the Aron Kodesh to Yerushalayim. Now, what did he do? He said, it came from the Plishtim on this wagon. I'm going to leave it on the wagon. I'll get 2 Kohanim to drive the wagon and bring it to Yerushalayim. As it was going, it went over a bump. The Aron Kodesh the wagon began to shake, and one of the Kohanim put his hands on the Aron Kodesh to hold it, so it shouldn't fall, and he died. Uzzah. So the Gemara says, why did this happen? So the Gemara brings down that David HaMelech referred to the Torah as a song, and Hashem said to David, you're going to make a mistake that every child knows. Ask any child, how did you bring the Aron Kodesh from place to place? The Leviim carried it on their shoulders. Every first grade kid knows the Aron Kodesh has to be on your shoulders. And you, David, you're bringing the Aron Kodesh up on a wagon. The next time he brought it on the shoulders. The Meforshim bring down the Oznaim LaTorah. David HaMelech said that we got the Aron on this wagon. It was such a big miracle. He wanted to keep the miracle alive. So he did it for all the right reasons. But Hashem wasn't happy. And it cost Uzzah his life. So eventually the Aron Kodesh came back to Yerushalayim only after David HaMelech had it brought by Shevet Kahos, the Levim from Shevet Kahos, or Kohanim, carried the Aron Kodesh. But generally the Aron Kodesh was always covered because it was magnificent, and people would stare at it. And when they stared at it, that becomes disrespectful. I guess if you ever see something that's a little bit strange or funny and you stare at it,
Indiana
what would your
Jones.
parents say? What?
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, if you stare at it, don't look, he said, don't look. You know, if you stare at something,
In the movie, they made it. They all got burned. The Nazis got
that's
burned.
right. And he said, don't look,
Don't look.
don't look. Because that's what the power was, to make sure not to look at it. So David knew that, he covered it over. But it was always about, you know, the Kedusha. They have, in this week's parsha, we have all the camps. There were 3 camps. And within the desert, you had the Mishkan in the middle, and you have all the camps around. But there were 3 camps. There was the camp of the Kohanim. Not many people in that camp, because there weren't that many Kohanim. There was Aaron, Elazar, Isamar, and their wives and children. Then around the Aron Kodesh, and in the Mishkan, you had the Levim. You had Moshe and Aaron over here, and you had Kahos, Merari, and Gershon. And around them were the Bnei Israel. So you had 3 sections. The section of Kohanim, Levi, Israel. Okay. If someone was Tameh, they came in contact with a dead body, which camp could they not go into? Camp 1, 2, or all 3? So the answer was they could not go into the camp of the Kohanim. They could be in the camp of Levi. They ask, how do you know this? Because Moshe kept the coffin of Yosef
Yeah.
with him. So if Moshe could keep Yosef's coffin in the camp of Levi, it meant that if you were Tomei, you could be in the camp of Levi. Okay? But otherwise, they could not be in the camp of the Kohanim. If someone had leprosy, which camp were they sent out of?
Outside.
All 3. You weren't allowed to be in the Kohen's camp, the Levi's camp, the Israel's camp. You were out. Because most of the time you got leprosy because of Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara causes machlokas between people. So Hashem says, you're trying to break apart people, guess what? You got to be away from people. Were there any people that had saras in the desert? So the Gemara says yes, it's a Medrash Rabbah. Rav Yossi Rav Simon Omer, min Maaseh ha'egel. There were many people who participated in the sin of the golden calf. They became leprous, and they died. Some of them died right away. Some of them died later on. Those that had leprosy were sent out of the camp. So there were some people who had leprosy, even before Miriam had leprosy. Eventually, those who were involved, those that were involved with the sin of the golden calf, they were leprosy. He brings down a famous story over here. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky says, we talked about this. We're going to bring this. We're going to say this again for your benefit. Okay? He says that the whole purpose of this parsha of Sota was about human nature. It was not about punishing the woman. It was about creating peace. It was about getting to why she needs to find comfort in other men. Usually that's a sign that her husband is not giving her the attention he needs. So the Parsha of Sota was often an opportunity to educate men on the proper respect for women. Okay? So you should just be aware of that. I've told you the story many times. My Roland tells this story. He says there was a boy who was learning in yeshiva, used to come home at night. But when he got into 12th grade, he wanted to stay in the dormitory of the yeshiva, because this way he didn't have to leave at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. He could learn in the base medrash till 12 o'clock. His parents weren't sure if that was the right thing for him or not, so they decided to ask Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. And this boy thought, great, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky is going to say for sure stay in the dormitory. If I could come home at 8 or stay in the yeshiva till 10, 11, he's going to say stay in the yeshiva till 10, 11 o'clock at night. What do you have to come home for? No Rosh Yeshiva wants kids coming home, right? They want them to stay in the yeshiva. So Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky listened to the boy, and he said to the boy, tell me something. Do your parents argue a lot, or are they really good together? So the boy says they're really good together. There's really a nice chemistry between my parents, shalom bayis. He says, then you're going to go home every night. He says, but Rebbe, I can learn an extra 2 hours in the yeshiva. He says, yes, but learning how to have good chemistry with a wife is also part of yeshiva training. He says, it's better, in yeshiva you'll learn Gemara, but you're not going to marry a Gemara, right? You're not going to fall in love with your stender. You need to know how to treat a woman. Where are you going to learn that? Not in yeshiva. So you're going to learn that from parents. So if your parents fight, and if your parents are unhappy, and you're learning all these bad things, you're right, I'll say stay in the yeshiva. But if you're telling me your parents have very good chemistry, then you know what? Go home every night. Study your parents. Learn their chemistry. That's what he said. This kid was shocked. So there's a lesson, a message here from Shalom Bayit that is important to know.
But when you connect with the Pirkei Avot, that they should not be with a woman all the time.
Correct.
With other wives, and there's another question going with your sister you haven't seen for many years. Is I'll see you when.
I'll see you. Yes, you have all those stories.
So all those stories. I mean, when you hear it, and people take it like a very fundamental. They take it very, very religiously, like from the roots, saying the yeshiva boch. That's what they do. Right,
and that's why they need Aseh L'Charav. They need someone to put all these wonderful stories in perspective.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. An example with, they bring it down from two different people over here, but they bring it down from the R.Rabbi, and they bring it down from the Rishon Rebbe. He says that a person went to the R.Rabbi, and he says, I've learned a lot. The Sofer, the Nazir doesn't drink wine. He abstains from a lot of things. He says, I also do a lot of things. For example, he says, I only drink water. I don't drink anything but water. And I knock nails in the bottom of my shoes, so when I walk, I should feel a little bit of pain. I shouldn't get comfortable in this world. And in the winter, I roll in the snow, and in the summer, I take a whip and I beat myself. That makes me a holy person. So the Osav Rebbe, or some say the Rishon Rebbe, said, come to the window over here. And he says, look out there, what do you see? He says, I see your horse. He says, well, my horse only drinks water. And he has nails in his shoes.
Yeah.
And he gets whipped all the time. And you know what he is? He's just a horse.
he doesn't get holy.
He's not a holy horse. He's just a horse. Doing all these things doesn't make you a holier person. Whipping yourself and denying yourself certain foods and putting nails in your shoes doesn't make you a holy person. There's a different track to what it means to become a holy person. You need to have a certain amount of kedusha that comes from learning Torah and knowing your strengths and weaknesses and knowing how to appreciate all these things. I'll give you an example. You talk about the Stipler. So there's a story with the Stipler that when his mother got sick, he used to go every day to see his mother. The Stipler he was a big Talmud Chacham in Bnei Brak, he would go every day to see his mother. When his mother passed away, he stopped going. His mother passed away. A few weeks later, he was visiting his father, and his father said to him, I also enjoyed your visits. He never realized he would come every day to see his mother, but he saw his father also. He came to see his mother because his mother wasn't well. His father, Baruch Hashem, was healthy. After his father said that, he started to go every day again to say hello to his father. That means here he was a big Talmud Chacham. He just didn't connect the dots. He just didn't realize that his father beat him. When his father passed away, he had a sister whose husband had died living in the house. He continued going every morning to say hello to his sister. because he figured that my father appreciated my visits. My sister, whose husband died, is alone in the house, would appreciate my visit also. So you talk about, here's the Stipler. He could have said, no, you don't talk to women, and not even my sister, I'll see you in the next world. Right? He didn't say that to his sister. The Stipler went every single day, said good morning to his sister, how are you, do you need anything, is everything okay? Just nice to see you, and that's it. So there is an interesting dichotomy, interaction, that there's a lot to learn by. They bring down over here from the Lincoln Square Synagogue in Manhattan that there was one of the founders, Wolf Reichard. So he once had a yahrzeit, so he made a kiddush, and he brought pastries from a Brooklyn bakery that had one of the super hechshers. It was like one of the best kosher bakeries in Brooklyn. And he said to the rabbi, Rabbi, have some cake, it's from this bakery. And the rabbi says, I'd love to. That cake looks delicious. But he says, but I'm on a diet, and the Yetzer Hara is telling me to eat, but I'm going to beat that Yetzer Hara. I'm going to stick to my diet. So this Mr. Reichard was a very smart man. He says, Rabbi, let me tell you a secret. The Yetzer Hara is going to get you. Whatever walls you build, he's going to find a weak point, and he's going to get you. So now, you want him to get you because you ate a piece of cake, or something more serious? If you're going to have to lose to the Yetzer Hara, at least enjoy the cake. It was just an interesting observation. He says, our struggle, our life is to find a way to defeat the Yetzer Hara. But I got you that you got to know something. He's going to get you. No matter what happens, he's going to get you. So if he's going to get you, then you might as well, give in one way or the other. Listen to this story. Maybe we'll end with this story. It's brought down in the Torah Tavlin, brings down the story. It was a few years ago. It's about Chacham Chaim Yosef David Azulai, known as the Chidah. Now, the Chidah, many of you know this, traveled all over the world. He used to travel all over. He wrote like hundreds of books, Svarim, and he would travel to all different communities. And he was visiting a town in Italy, Livorno. And he was learning in the base medrash there in Livorno, when a man comes in and goes over to the head of the Beit Din who was sitting in the base medrash, and he says, I suspect my wife has had an affair. I don't know what to do. I don't trust her. And the Chidah hears this, and the Chidah turns to the man and says to the man, divorce her. If you don't trust her, if you think she's unfaithful, divorce her. Now, this girl, his wife, was related to the head of the Beit Din. Well, the head of the Beit Din says, Rebbe, who says it's true? I know this girl. She's my relative. She's of noble character. She would never do this. You just can't say divorce her. There's no witnesses. There's no din Torah. There's no Beis Din. With all due respect, you're not a Navi. You don't have a crystal ball. You don't know what happened. You have no right to say what you did. And this began to split the town. There was a machloket, was wild. The Chidah said divorce, and then the Rosh Basin said no, and then back and forth. You thought you had Sephardi politics. You should see these Sephardi politics. This one wild. Finally, the Chidah agreed to meet the woman. And the woman came up to his office. His office was upstairs, came up the stairs to the Chidah's office. The minute the Chidah saw her, he opened up a small Oren Kodesh that he had, took out a Sefer Torah, and started to read the Parsha of Sota, the Sota woman. The woman was furious. How dare you insult me by reading that Parsha? I'm not guilty. That's a fake. That's a lie. I'm innocent. You have no right to believe my husband. You have no right to curse me. She turned around, started to walk down the stairs, lost her footing, fell down the stairs, broke her neck, and died. The elders of the congregation were so shocked by what happened that they paved the steps leading to the Chidah study. They covered it in gold. And after that, no one ever questioned what the Chidah had to say. It wasn't healthy to question the Chidah.
So it was right from the beginning?
It seems he was right on. Now, it doesn't answer the question. Did he have Ruach HaKodesh? Was he a Novi? I don't have the answer to that question. But he sure had something.
He was a student of Rabbeinu Shalom Shalom.
Right. He had something.
It's obvious, yeah.
It's quite obvious. I mean, we have stories like that by Rabbi Kiva Eger. But this is a story they bring down with the Chidah. It's published. It's a published story. He says, as her foot touched the first step to go down, she suddenly doubled over and her face began to turn colors, her eyes bulged in their sockets, and she died right in front of everybody's eyes.
She died.
A few people rushed to help her, but it was too late, and they hurry up. They said, remove her body so the Chidah should not become Tomei. It was clear that the Chidah was a tremendous tzaddik who had communications that they couldn't understand. Wealthy members of the community paid to have the steps leading down from the Chidah study coated in gold. They don't give these stories about Ashkenazi
There
rabbis
was
so
also
much.
Rabbi Yoshua Esha. There was a rich family.
Yeah?
Rabbi Yoshua Esha said to his wife, go buy me a fish on Shur Shabbat. And she went, she couldn't find a fish in a market, so she went by the river where the fishermen were selling the fishes. And they said, we only caught 2 big fishes. So this comes over, the rich lady's wife, she comes over, the rabbi's wife already bought the fish, and she said, rabbi's wife, and she grabbed Rabbi Yoshua Esha's fish, and she dragged it, and she took it home.
Mm-hmm.
She came home, and she said, I wanted to bring the fish for the Shabbat, but she took over the fish. And then he said to Ishash, go tell to this rich man that he should give back the fish. If he's not going to give back the fish, tell him his wife is a zona, is a marsha, not a good lady. So he says, how am I going to tell to the person? The rabbi said that they're going to kill me over there. There's so many
Right,
people.
don't kill the messenger.
They killed the messenger to tell me in front of a rich man. So he goes, he tells she to return the bags and as his wife says, this fish belongs to us. Says, if you don't give the fish back, your wife is such and such. He says, what? I want the rabbi to come over to the bedin and to explain to me, to tell by his own words. So he came to the bedin. He was sitting by the chair of the rabbi in the bedin. He says, rabbi says, how can you sit in the rabbi's chair? He says, get up. So he sits in the rabbi, so he gets up. Says, now prove me that my wife is such and such.